Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate to you a watercolor technique called wet on wet. So watercolor paints need water to wake them up. So we have a bucket of water, we have a soft-haired paintbrush, paper, and our paints. So when we do this technique, it's called wet on wet. So you want to start by getting your paintbrush wet. And you actually don't put it into any paint to start with. Just wet your paper. Now you don't want to drench the paper, but you do want to be get enough on there that it's wet. And I'm only going to do the top portion of my paper. So now my paper is wet, and now I'm going to get some wet paint, and I'm going to put it onto the wet paper. So what we're doing is we're creating the wet on wet technique. And I can just dab it, and you can see how the paint will start to naturally spread because of the water that is already there on the paper. It makes the paint move. So you can dab it. You can kind of just put little marks with your paintbrush. And if you have enough water, you can actually tilt your paper and use gravity to create interesting shapes and designs. Okay, so that's wet on wet, but we want to do it to blend color. So I can't blend anything right now, it's just one color. So I need to get a new color. And I can fill in maybe some of my white areas with that color. And now I have two colors, and they can blend into each other. I can make them move. The danger with this is you don't want to blend too much that they all just become one color. They've blended so much. So you want to make sure we can still see at least the two colors. So when you do wet on wet, you want to limit yourself. You don't want to do like every color in the paint tray. You want to limit to 3 or 4, and maybe just even 2. So what I'm doing now is I'm going now to the middle portion of my paper, and I'm just going to do the same process. And eventually the whole paper will be full of paint, and these colors will be blended, and it will create beautiful, beautiful marks. Wet on wet technique is really good for things such as if you wanted to paint like a sky for a landscape or a seascape. You can get a lot of pretty designs. You can just see how beautifully they spread together. Now if you get too much paint on your paper, you can always get a paper towel and you can dab some of those puddles up if it's just a little overwhelming. Okay, so this is wet on wet. Here I'm going to do wet on wet again. Alright, so I want to show you here. Here I've used 2 colors and I've done the wet on wet technique, but I haven't blended the colors together. I just placed orange first and then blue. What I want to be seeing when we do this technique is more of a blend, that they kind of go into each other gradually and they work together rather than being right next to each other. This is not blending, okay? So when you create your own image, make sure they're coming together in a way that is interesting, not just side by side. So this is wet on wet. Now this has to dry if you wanted to draw anything on top of it.